Greetings, Aurors, Ministry officials, Dark Cultists, Death Eaters, and welcome back to another year at Hogwarts. As always, the Pensieve told me that I would be seeing you soon. The Harry Potter universe and Fantastic Beasts is chock full of some of the most powerful characters and wizards you will find in fiction, with Harry Potter staking its title as one of the most recognisable series in all of cinema history and book history. The Harry Potter universe is no shortage of incredible, powerful characters. But who truly are the most powerful of these beings, these entities, these magical prodigies? Who ranks among the top? Would it be Albus Dumbledore, Dark Wizard Grindelwald, Dark Wizard Catcher Alistair Mad-Eye Moody, or Tom Marvolo Riddle himself? You know who, Lord Voldemort. Today we're going to be covering all of that and more as we delve into the ancient texts and prepare for another year at Hogwarts. Today's lesson, examining the most powerful wizards to ever grace and disgrace the Wizarding world, and seeing who truly sits and attains the top spot and wears the crown of wizardry. Now, my friends, let's begin. Starting off at the number 10 position, we have Bellatrix Lestrange, unquestionably the most famous Death Eater besides Voldemort himself. Bellatrix Lestrange was an incredibly powerful witch who detested Muggleborns more than anything else. Bellatrix Lestrange was immensely powerful, having mastered multiple aspects of magic, extremely powerful, including the dark arts. She was very dangerous, trained by Voldemort himself. She was a master of dark arts, an incredibly skillful duelist, an experienced occlumens. Her unbalanced mental state and emotional instability seemed to feed her power, and prodigious magical skill was proven by many victories over numerous talented witches and wizards, including extremely experienced Aurors. Bellatrix Lestrange also holds the title of being the one to murder Sirius Black. Sirius Black, in my opinion, being the most powerful out of the Marauders group, consisting of Peter Pettigrew, Remus Lupin, Sirius, and James Potter. Bellatrix was a mistress and master of the dark arts, her signature spell being Crucio, but she was capable of performing Avada Kedavra and a multiple other of stunning spells. Now, my friends, let's move on to number 9, the greatest Auror to have ever lived. Coming in at the number 9 position, we have Alistair Mad-Eye Moody. Alistair Mad-Eye Moody was one of the greatest Aurors in history, if not the greatest. While many wizards master one specific branch of magic in their time, Moody was known to have mastered several. Alistair Mad-Eye Moody was the greatest Auror in the British Ministry of Magic. Despite his skills being somewhat diminished by the Second Wizarding War, Moody was stated to have filled half the cells in Azkaban. He was a highly valued and respected member of the Order of the Phoenix. Even Voldemort himself acknowledged Moody as one of the most powerful members of the Order, following the death of Dumbledore. As a Hogwarts student, Moody had excelled in his studies and developed an extraordinary skill in many disciplines of magic, qualifying for Auror training. This speaks for the versatility and extensive expertise in many magical disciplines, which is a big accomplishment for a sorcerer. Moody was able to stand toe-to-toe with some of the greatest dark wizards we know, including Antonin Dolohov and a multitude of other dark warlocks. He even was killed using treachery. Moody was only killed because Mundungus Fletcher apparated. However, despite Moody's prodigious power, we have to move on to number 8, Head of Transfiguration and Gryffindor House, Minerva McGonagall. Minerva McGonagall is one of the wisest witches and warlocks on this list, with Minerva McGonagall being one of Dumbledore's oldest friends. Minerva McGonagall has displayed an array of unique magical talents, being able to generate swirls of fire that were enough to overwhelm the defenses of Severus Snape for a brief period. An incredibly powerful and talented witch that was expressed in her schooling years. None should ever have underestimated her. Her magical prowess allowed her to be the teacher of Transfiguration, a remarkably complex field of magic which she proved to be an expert in. She was highly capable in many areas of magic as well. She survived both Wizarding Wars and a duel with Voldemort himself, along with Horace Slughorn and Kingsley Shacklebolt, as well as correctly brewing the extremely advanced Animagus potion at only 17. She was the only person ever seen to produce 3 Patronus charms at once, actual corporeal Patronuses, with her own Patronus being the form of a cat. Many wizards and witches alike are unable to produce one Patronus while saying the incantation. This is further evidence of Minerva's world-class ability, with Jacob's sibling saying McGonagall is the most powerful witch that he knew. Now, number 7, we have Credence Barebone. I know what you're thinking. Credence? The depressed emo kid from the Fantastic Beasts series? I know it might sound far-fetched, but let me explain. Credence's natural skill is an obscurial, as well as the Dumbledore blood, the most powerful bloodline in all of Harry Potter rushing through his veins, meaning that Credence was one of the most powerful beings in all of Harry Potter that was not an actual god, an extremely talented wizard. He is naturally powerful, although for most of his life his magical abilities were suppressed due to the abuse of his adoptive mother. Unlike many obscurials, Credence eventually learned how to express his natural magical abilities. He was able to transform into an Obscurus, prone to unleashing or embodying due to a few years of being forced to suppress his magic. He was immensely more powerful than any known Obscurus ever, living longer than any previously known, and even proved capable of surviving the combined might of the destructive spells unleashed by more than 20 Makusa auras at once. Ever since, Credence had acquired complete control of his Obscurus by training from Grindelwald, being far more precise with his Obscurus attacks than before while fighting Gunnar Grimson, with a bounty hunter being forced to constantly hold up the shield charm and apparate away to safety. Next, we have the Potions Master. We have Professor Severus Snape. Yes, my friends, it's time to turn to page 394. Professor Severus Snape was one of the most powerful wizards, with Dumbledore and many others even claiming him as the most powerful wizard of his generation. Severus Snape was a highly accomplished occlumens and legitimens, being able to shield his mind whilst invading others. He was also a master of persuasion, with Severus being able to persuade one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful dark wizard of all time, in Lord Voldemort himself, that he was on his side, while secretly working for Voldemort. Snape was able to generate potions at a level and even improve older potions that master potioneers had tried to master. An extremely powerful and skilled wizard, showing proficient talent and great knowledge in many areas of magic. He had an encyclopedic knowledge and proficiency in potions, was incredibly talented in both legitimacy and occlumency, and was the only Death Eater capable of producing a corporeal Patronus in the form of a doe. Even as a young age, he was a gifted wizard, having knowledge of deep secrets of the wizarding world, though he would usually relay to his crush in Lily Potter. Coming in next at the joint number 5 position, we have the 4 founders of Hogwarts, being Helga Hufflepuff, Godric Gryffindor, Rowena Ravenclaw, and Salazar Slytherin. Starting off with Hufflepuff, Helga was a bright and talented witch, regarded as one of the most intelligent and bright of her generation, a highly talented in food-related charms, and many of her recipes are still used in Hogwarts, testifying to her unique talent. With the help of abilities of her fellow founders, she bewitched the Sorting Hat into a sentient magical artifact with personality in order to serve students well after her lifetime ended. She was also capable of magical manufacturing, creating a cup with special powers, which was eventually passed down to her descendant, Hepzibah Smith. Moving on to, in my opinion, the second weakest, we have Godric Gryffindor. Godric Gryffindor was said to be the greatest duelist of his time, perhaps all time, preferring to use a steel-bladed sword and considerable talent in martial magic and muggle dueling, using his sword in combat. His skills as a swordsman were such he preferred to duel muggles with his sword instead of magic, despite magic being more the decisive and powerful weapon. Coming in next, we have the most intelligent witch of all time. We have Rowena Ravenclaw. She devised the entirety of Hogwarts architecture, being able to enchant her diadem personally, which no other witch or wizard was ever able to replicate. And she was a magical historian, and was also capable of divination, dreaming about a warty hog leading her off to a cliff by the lake where she and her companions would build Hogwarts. Finally, we have Salazar Slytherin, the heir of Slytherin. Slytherin was capable of speaking Parseltongue, had a mastery of charms, and a multitude of other magical aspects, including basilisk breathing, wand lore and wand making, legitimacy, and the dark arts. He was the one who originally built the Chamber of Secrets as a place to teach students dark magic at an academic class. Now, let's move on to our next position. Now, let us move on to a joint position once again. In the number 4 position, we have Morgana Le Fay and Merlin. Widely considered to be among, or the greatest wizard who had ever lived, Merlin was a master at magic, with Merlin being the most famous wizard of all time and a member of the court of Arthur itself. As he was considered the most famous wizard, it is assumed that he was rich in learning and experience and more than a considerable innate ability of magic. With his charm, exceptional ability in this field of magic was known to the point he'd been dubbed the Prince of Enchanters, and was regarded as a charm specialist. A master of wandless magic, spell creation, study of ancient runes, and divination. He was able to predict the future as he could grow a green dragon inside a crystal ball. Now moving on to Merlin's arch nemesis, Morgana Le Fay. Morgana Le Fay was regarded as the most powerful witch of all time, being a master of the dark arts. Morgana's famous wizard card described her as a powerful and formidable dark witch. With her transfiguration ability to rival Minerva McGonagall's, was revealed to have mastered the art of it, being able to master human transfiguration, having become an animagus, being able to turn herself into a bird. She was also a master at potions, being able to brew an animagus potion, and was a proficient healer, and necessary practices in the art of healing magic, far outshining any of her peers. Now, we move on to two of the most wizards of all time, Gellert Grindelwald and Lord Voldemort. Let's start chronologically, and begin with Gellert Grindelwald. Gellert Grindelwald was born in 1882 to 1883 and was widely considered one of the most notorious wizards of all time, being every bit as brilliant as his former friend and lover Albus Dumbledore, albeit a shade less skillful. Gellert Grindelwald was able to generate elemental magic, producing Tempest Jinxes, White Elemental Blasts, Fiend Fire, and even his piece de resistance in Protego Diabolica, creating tendrils of black fire to arc out and destroy his enemies, and incinerating them to stop auras from escaping the Lestrange mausoleum. Grindelwald was capable of mastering all three unforgivable curses, Crucio, Imperio, and Avada Kedavra. He was able to apparate at will, almost silently. Grindelwald was so masterful that he attained the Elder Wand. Attaining the Elder Wand allowed him to utterly demolish his enemies, and it was considered to the point that Voldemort was the only wizard that was capable of stopping him, a statement that would soon prove correct. Moving on to the most famous dark wizard in all of history, we have Tom Marvolo Riddle, more commonly recognized as Lord Voldemort. Lord Voldemort was the most powerful dark wizard to have ever lived. Voldemort was a notorious wizard, having mastered all three unforgivable curses. Voldemort's magical arsenal was nothing to smile at. Voldemort had mastered the ability of Horcrux creation, developing 7 Horcruxes, only 5 intentionally, however, as Harry Potter was one made unintentionally. Voldemort was employed the killing curse on multiple occasions, including killing Grindelwald, murdering him mercilessly in Nurmengard. He was a master at transfiguration and the most skilled dark arts practitioner of all time, being able to generate enormous serpents that he called Fiend Fire, creating Nagini, creating Horcruxes. The list of Voldemort's feats goes on. He was also able to duel an Elder Wand-wielding Dumbledore, while not possessing the Elder Wand himself within the Ministry Atrium, a true testament to the power. His prodigious skill was such he was able to manipulate and control animals at a mere whim. He was capable of a Parselmouth, being one of the most skilled ever, and reawakening the basilisk within the Chamber of Secrets. Voldemort was a malicious, merciless wizard without any love or compassion, but there was one that surpassed him. Coming in at the number 1 position, we have Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore. Of course you saw this coming. Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore was not only the wizard to take down Gellert Grindelwald, was capable of dueling Lord Voldemort to a standstill and defeating him. He was capable of defeating Grindelwald while Grindelwald had the Elder Wand, while Dumbledore didn't have the Elder Wand himself. His Expelliarmuses were so powerful he could knock someone out even if they're in a different room. He was capable of creating a firestorm that could instantly incinerate anyone, despite being severely weakened. He was a master at transfiguration and defense against the dark arts, formerly being the teacher of both. Dumbledore was also even skilled in his advanced age, with Dumbledore being able to apparate silently, one of only 2 wizards, along with Lord Voldemort, who had that prodigious skill. Not to mention, he was the only wizard that you know who, Voldemort, ever truly feared, above even Grindelwald. Dumbledore was able to contend with Voldemort, and was considered such. He was the greatest student to have ever attended Hogwarts in its over 1,000 years of history. Dumbledore was the greatest wizard of all time without any doubt, and I hope to see his skills on display in Fantastic Beasts. Well, my friends, this brings us to the end of our wizarding journey. I hope you have enjoyed excavating the Chamber of Secrets in Hogwarts, exploring the White Tomb of Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore, covering ancient facts from the hidden cells of Nurmengard. Goodbye, my friends. I'll see you in the next video. And get back to work. Complete your assignment. And I'll see you soon, my trusted wizarding comrades.